And this is a Fox News alert. We are still here tonight as we investigate what has happened near Philadelphia as an Amtrak train has crashed. The Associated Press is reporting that it is train 188 traveling from Washington, D.C. up to New York City on Tuesday night when it crashed. These trains go all the time. The Amtrak, the Acela, this is a very commonly traveled route. I'm sure this train has done this route many, many times before. And as we see the pictures together, we're looking at it as you are for the very first time, or one of them. As you can see the flashlights of what appear to be the first responders on scene trying to get inside of these train cars, which have clearly been derailed. The information that we have right now, and please bear in mind that as we get breaking news in a situation like this, it often turns out to be incorrect. But what we are hearing right now is that the front of the train was going into a turn when it began to shake. An employee who works for the Associated Press, do not know if it is an actual journalist or just an employee of the AP, was on the train and said it appeared that the train did go off the tracks, and one assumes from that recitation he or she meant that is what caused the crash. That is what happened at the crash, as opposed to something happened and then afterward the train went off the tracks, as you can see here. But you can see one car on its side, another car right behind it. Can't see ambulances in this particular shot here, but it does appear to be some emergency first responders on the scene, and clearly the news helicopters have gotten to the scene. There are some people tweeting out photos of the events and the inside of the train, and we can see that there are first responders on the scene. They appear to be firefighters, and you can see passengers with bloody limbs, bloody legs in one particular picture that we are seeing. Still alive. There's no fatalities from the pictures that we've seen, just two that I've seen so far that have been tweeted out online, and yet it is still very early. And so often when you see a disaster like this, there are fatalities. We hope that is not the case here tonight. We are talking to Amtrak, trying to get the latest information. We hope to have something for you in a moment, as they will obviously be updating this situation, which appears grave at this hour. Again, this is a very commonly traveled route. You can take the Amtrak train north. The trains, most of them run virtually every hour on the hour. And it is about a 4-hour journey, a little bit more, depending on the train you take, from D.C. up to New York. This happened just near Philadelphia, is all we're being told. Do not know. Now we're being told in Philadelphia, although we'll find out more on the location. The police are swarming. It's called the Port Richmond area, if you're familiar with that terrain. And that's where the crash occurred. They're telling people that they need to get back. A former Congressman Patrick Murphy was on the train. He's the one who's been tweeting out these photos of the firefighters helping people in the wreckage. And we are going to try to reach out to him and see if he can give us some information on what he observed, other than the train was going into a turn when it took a shook, or when it began to shake, according to one eyewitness. Again, the latest information is that several people appear to be injured. And our Trace Gallagher is live in our breaking newsroom with more on this now. Trace?
The number we're getting, Megan, is 50. We just talked to Amtrak, and as you might imagine, they are slammed right now trying to get information out. The reason first responders aren't on scene yet is because this happened just a short time ago. The helicopters were able to get up in the air before the first responders actually got on scene. As you said, the train, some of the passengers said, started to shake before it went off. Now, we have seen a number of these types of derailments before, and usually, more times than not, it's because the train hits something on the track, some kind of a truck or car that got on the track. In this case, we don't see any indication there. We finally see the first signs the first responders on. They're trying to triage, and what they'll do is they will go through and they will get the passengers out, and just like they do in a MASH unit, they will triage them, the worst injured to the lesser injured, and they will treat them as follows. As we all know, these Amtrak trains, on this one particular, Megan, you and I have been on a number of times, they are designed to actually go off the rails when they hit something. They're not designed to coil up like an accordion. The best scenario is for these things to actually scatter, to go off the tracks, and that way people stand a much better chance of survival. It's normally the front cars the ones that are closest to any impact are the ones that are closest to the actual derailment that are the hardest impacted. In this case, it's just impossible right now for us to tell. But the latest information we have are that between 8 and 9 cars actually derailed and up to 50 passengers have been injured. We have not yet heard of any fatalities, but keep in mind, this is very early in the game. They are just now shining spotlights, as you can see, and going through each train by train, trying to figure out who is injured and who is left on board these trains. We have seen a number of Twitter posts from passengers on the trains. They have given some kind of indication that there was no collision, just a shaking, and then suddenly off the rails it went. But if you look there at that first car, it appears to be some type of twisted metal, indicating that there may have been more to this than we're being told. The Associated Press, KYW from Philadelphia, still has not given us a great deal of information about exactly what happened. As we get more, Megan, get better pictures than this, we can get a much better idea of exactly the genesis of this impact on the train from D.C. to New York, making a turn in Philadelphia.